Anderson Creek deployment area from the Little Venus Fire, Shoshone National Forest, Wyoming.
When you're in fire, you kind of get a sixth sense of how things are going throughout the day, and really just the amount of time that everything took us in the morning didn't make me feel really good about how our day was lining up. There was different stuff going on the fire, and we were kind of a low priority mission, if you would. So we're kind of walking up into the fire during the most active part of the day. It was a 6 mile hike. There's kind of, if you look at a map of the area, there's a kind of a long bend in the canyon, so we couldn't see around the corner. It's a pretty heavily forested trail. So we got to a point where this other trail took off up the ridge, where we could see about a mile up the canyon. So we got to that point, and as soon as we topped out, I knew we were in trouble. There was fire kind of from ridgetop to ridgetop across the entire canyon, coming down canyon at us. The fire was crowning through the timber, so I mean that it was consuming the full trees. The flame lengths on it, were 60, 80, 100 feet, and the amount of black sky. I mean, it really. When the fire is so intense like that, it's making its own weather, and there's a lot of smoke coming off of it, so it'll actually kind of block out the sun. It's kind of a really eerie thing, and it's time to run. There's not a lot of time. We know this fire is going to be on us. We know that really our lives depend on us getting out of there. And as we start running down the trail, one of the packs is laying there in the trail. Kind of instinctually, I just grabbed her pack and threw it into the river, thinking that'd be a safer place for maybe some of her stuff to survive. I didn't realize at that time that she had broken away from the rest of us and had crossed the river at that point. It was real thick timber. So we got down to the intersection, crossed the river. Fire was coming really fast behind us. By this time, you could hear the roar of the fire. A fire, when it's crowning through timber, does sound like a freight train, like a jet engine. Real intense noise. I made the decision to go ahead and deploy fire shelters. As part of that, as part of your training during that fire shelter deployment, you always want to try to count your bodies. And I knew there's 10 folks with us. I counted bodies, and there was 9 folks. It was one of the probably worst feelings of my entire career. Just going, where is this other person? They're gone. They're missing. Quickly we figured out that it was Monica Zients. Well, luckily, there wasn't a lot of heat with the first passing, and we were able to get back out of our fire shelters within a couple minutes, and only one side of our deployment area had burned by. We realized we had a little bit of time before we were going to get hit again, because fire was developing up the side drainage and was going to come hit the other side of us. So we kind of sprung into action. We had folks kind of reorganizing. If you pack together in a tighter group with fire shelters, you have a higher chance of survival because your neighbor's fire shelter helps you. And then myself and one of the other guys, grabbed fusees and lit a backfire around the edge of the deployment site, which really takes a lot of the heat away and takes a lot of the fuels away with a lot smaller fire. So then we ended up getting back into our fire shelters. And that time is a lot hotter, a lot scarier, a lot more potential, for death. I really thought several times I wasn't sure we were going to live through the situation. Just outside, there's this glow. There's kind of little pinholes in your fire shelter, and you can actually see and smell and hear the fire going on. Within the fire shelter, there was a lot of different thoughts I had. One, I was really, really upset about this missing crew member. I had visions of what I would have to tell their parents. I was also really worried for my family. I had a baby son that was less than a year old. He's 11 months old. I was really worried that was I ever going to see them again? I mean, the thoughts cross your head. You're not sure what's going to happen. You're really in your last resort survival mode. I mean, there's nothing else at that point in time that's in between you and that fire besides a real thin fire shelter, really. And so it's a fight for survival. I really, at that point in time, too, started thinking about how did I get myself into this situation? How is that? How's the rest of the crew doing? Do folks know what's going on the outside world? So I was having almost like a hailstorm of burning embers falling on the fire shelter. So it kind of sounded like hail on a roof, if you would. And just trying to keep that air pocket, so you're constantly kind of reaching behind you. We're yelling back and forth, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And so during this whole event, we can't get out on the radios at all. Nobody knows on the entire fire that we've deployed fire shelters. One of the younger guys that was with us, that was one of the detailers, he wanted to get up several times, and he was in between everybody else, and they kept encouraging him, stay down, this is the best chance of survival. And really, it is, even though as bad as it feels like you can't do anything and you're pinned down in there, it's 100 times worse outside that fire shelter. Everybody at the Anderson Creek deployment site was okay. A couple folks had some pretty substantial smoke inhalation, but we were all in pretty good spirits. We were all super worried about our missing crew member, and everything around us had burned incredibly intense. The forest was just a bunch of black matchsticks, if you would. Still smoldering, still a lot of smoke, kind of right there where that confluence of those two creeks were in that rock outcropping. There was a little bit of a pocket in there where the smoke wasn't as bad, but really we couldn't leave that spot at that time. There's still a lot of stuff burning, a lot of stuff smoldering. It was amazing afterwards, this kind of everybody's different reaction to it. I was extremely shell-shocked. There's other people in some of the pictures that were smiling and giving the hang loose sign. I think they were just so happy to be alive. Guys had their arms around each other. We had all just been through a very near-death experience together, and it's something that is very, very hard to even describe.
Shelter deployment at the Jack Creek Trailhead. They need to know how many people are there. Shelter deployment at Anderson Creek. Find out how many people are at Jack Creek. Could you please repeat? You're real sketchy, but I heard that you're asking how many people are at Jack Creek Trailhead. Could you please repeat? There are 10 people at Jack Creek Trailhead. Shelter deployment.
So they're able to send helicopters out for us. And as the helicopters came in closer, and it was extremely windy day, the helicopters went up and flying. As they came in closer to our location, we started talking to them on a line of sight channel on air to ground. All of a sudden, Monica, our missing crew member's voice came across the radio, and it was the most relieved I've ever been in my entire life to hear her voice. We didn't know where she was. but we knew that she was okay. After a while, that smoke got good enough that we were able to go find Monica, and we found her. We're wading across the river. She came around. I gave her a big, huge hug and was just so happy to see her and so happy that she was okay. We'd been working together for a couple weeks. I didn't know her, that well, but I was just so happy that she was okay, and that we're back together. We still had to get out of there that night. We had to hike back out of there. We kind of pulled. We're like, you guys want to stay in here? We didn't have our camping gear. And all the guys were like, no, we want to get out of here. We want to, we don't want to stay here another minute.